The British and Irish Lions start their tour with a big win in Perth. The top 14 final goes into extra time. And we have two new champions crowned in the United States Club Rugby. Hello and welcome to the Rugby Roundup with me, Big Mike. It is July 2nd, 2025. We're here at Big Mike Sports and I'm currently experiencing a severe weather warning. That's right, folks. This morning we woke up and our trampoline had flown over the fence and had nearly broken the neighbour's fence, but that's okay because we have a huge week of rugby to look forward to, including Rugby World Cup 2027 qualifiers and big international action. But enough of all that. Let's get to the roundup. We'll start with international men's action from last weekend, starting with the British and Irish Lions and their first game in Australia taking on the Western Force. This one was never close. The Force had no chance, going down 54 points to 7. This was the Lions' first game with all of the players available. Unfortunately, one of the Welsh players did get hurt and has to finish up his tour, meaning there's only one Welshman left. But that does mean that we nearly have a full-strength Welsh squad taking on Japan this weekend. In other international action, a Japan 15 went down 53-20 to the Māori ABs. This Japan 15 setup is pretty much a way for them to trial most of their top players, but not all of them, in an uncapped test match. This one was 17-15 to the Japan 15 at halftime before 38 points to that Māori AB squad. In other international action from last weekend, Italy down Namibia 73-6. A great start to their tour, now with 2 games against the world champion number 1 squad in the world, that Springboks team. And speaking of that Springboks side, they hosted the Barbarians for the first time. The Barbarians have had a great record against the Springboks in the last few meetings, but they did lose 54-7. The second 54-7 score of the weekend. The Springboks started strong, finished strong, and they looked like world champions, not letting anyone in that Barbarian squad look good at all. Now, the under-20s men's World Cup did start over the weekend. We are looking at 12 teams who will be going into semi-finals. So the top team in each pool plus the best second place squad. In Pool A, England beat Scotland 56-19. Australia went down huge to South Africa 73-17. In Pool B, France beat Spain 49-11 and Ireland beat Georgia 35-28. And in Pool C, Argentina got a tight victory over Wales 34-27. And despite looking a bit rocky, the New Zealand under-20s did beat Italy 14-5. In international women's action, Australia A defeated Samoa 50-22. Now to club results, it was the final in the top 14 in France. At the 80th minute, this one was 33-all Bordeaux and Toulouse. This was due to a Bordeaux penalty late in the game. However, in those final 20 minutes, 80th to the 100th, Thomas Ramos scored 2 penalties, which meant that Toulouse won 39-33 and stopped Bordeaux from getting the double after winning the Champions Cup earlier in the season. Congratulations to the top-seeded Toulouse, who won the top 14, our champions for 24-25. Now to Major League Rugby in the United States. It was the Western Conference champion, the Houston SaberCats, taking on the Eastern Conference champions, New England Free Jacks, who were going for their third title in a row. Now, the Houston started this one hot, but they weren't dominant, and at the 15th minute, the New England team took the lead and they never let go. This one finished 28-22. Houston were chasing but could never quite get on top. Congratulations to the New England Free Jacks for winning their third championship in a row. The first American sports team to do such a feat since that turn of the century. Los Angeles Lakers in the NBA. Now to Women's Elite Rugby in its inaugural season. The Denver Onyx defeated the New York Exiles 53-13 in a dominant final to become your first-time champions. Well done to the Denver Onyx and the New England Free Jacks for your victories in United States Rugby. And you know what? That's it for the club rugby competitions that we've been talking about for the entire year. Crazy to see that all of these competitions are complete. Let's do a roundup of our champions so far this season. In the Champions Cup, this was won by Bordeaux. Bath won the Challenge Cup. Toulouse won your top 14. The Premiership and Premiership Rugby Cups both went to Bath. Leinster won your URC. In Japan League 1 Division 1, this was taken out by Toshiba Brave Lupus. Super Rugby Pacific champions were the Crusaders. Major League Rugby champions were the New England Free Jacks. Super Rugby Americas champions, Panadol. In women's competitions, your Premiership Women's Rugby champions, Gloucester Hartpury. Elite 1 champions, Stade Bordelais. Super Rugby OPC champions, the Blues. Super W champions, the Waratahs. And your Women's Elite Rugby champions, the Denver Onyx. The Currie Cup is starting in July, on the last weekend of July in South Africa. New Zealand club competitions are also starting up before we know it. Now, quick word about Big Mike. If you want me to talk about any games, any teams, any competitions, please let me know. Best way to do this, Big Mike Sports NZ on Instagram, YouTube, X, or under the Spotify. And you know what? We did get a request this week to talk about, believe it or not, the secondary schools competition in Counties Manukau, as one of our listeners works at Manurewa High. Now, one of the results has not come back, but on the weekend, Manurewa beat Papakura 19-14. There are 2 rounds left. I'm not entirely sure if this one's just a round robin or if we're going into a final system. But we are looking at Manurewa and Wesley College. Wesley are known for bringing the world Jonah Lomu. Both of these schools have 6 victories. Pukekohe has 5. Rosehill, where my mum went, has 4. Papakura has 2. And sitting on the bottom with no victories so far, we have Waiuku. So thank you for that request. I'll keep an eye on what's going on in the Counties Manukau Secondary Schools competition. For news for this week, we have seen the announcement of the pools for next season's Champions and Challenge Cup, which I'll dig into when those competitions start up at the end of the year. All right, let's look forward to what we've got coming up this weekend. We are going to start with the Asia Rugby Championship. We're doing this because the winner of this competition, which has its final round this week, will have an automatic spot in Rugby World Cup 2027. The second place squad will go into the last chance qualifying tournament to join Belgium. After 2 games, Hong Kong are sitting on top with 10 points. Korea have 7, UAE have 5, and Sri Lanka have 2, meaning that technically only Hong Kong and Korea can win, and they will be taking on each other this weekend. If Hong Kong win this, they qualify for their first ever World Cup. If Korea win this and limit the bonus points of Hong Kong, they will qualify for their first ever World Cup. Now, the night before that, we have Sri Lanka taking on the UAE. UAE got that huge upset victory over Korea in the last round. Now, if Sri Lanka go down and Korea also lose, then the UAE will jump Korea into that second spot and will be joining Belgium in the last chance qualifier, as long as they defeat whoever comes second in Africa, whose competition, an 8-team elimination tournament, starts in a couple of weekends. Very exciting time in the world of minnows. To the Lions tour, I'm recording this on Wednesday afternoon, Australia time, which means that tonight, probably before you listen to this podcast, the Lions will be taking on the Reds in Brisbane. Then on Saturday night, they are taking on the Waratahs in Sydney. And next Wednesday, I will be going to the Lions taking on the Brumbies in Canberra. And if it's night time and it's feeling as cold as it's been lately, I am going to lose a testy. The Lions have beaten one Super Rugby squad so far. Can they make it 4 from 4? Last time they toured, they beat the Force, they beat Queensland, they beat the Waratahs, and they lost to the Brumbies. We've also had some announcements for the AU NZ Invitational squad. So far we have 6 All Blacks or former All Blacks announced for that team. Okay, let's look forward to the international action this weekend. Now, reminder that at the end of the year in December, after the November international window, the Rugby World Cup 2027 draw will take place. And everything will have to do with what set of 6 you are in the World Rugby rankings. The top 6 will go into a pool each, followed by the next 6, and so on. So World rankings this year are going to play a huge part in what happens in 2 years' time. Now, the second place World ranked team, New Zealand, hosts France, who are currently 4th. France have sent a quote-unquote weaker squad for this tour. However, they have some of the most depth in all of World Rugby, and we wouldn't be surprised if they got a victory or two despite not sending all of their heavyweight players. France have also won the last 3 test matches between these two squads. The last series in New Zealand was in 2018, where the All Blacks won 3-0. Now, South Africa, the top team in the world, have got 2 games coming up against Italy, who are currently ranked 10th, and had that 67-point victory over Namibia on the weekend. South Africa only lost twice last year, that being to Argentina and Ireland. Now, this is the first of 3 games that South Africa and Italy will play this year. Their last meeting was in 2022, with South Africa winning 63-21. And Italy have beaten the Springboks once, that being in 2016. The next big game for the weekend, we have the 5th-ranked Argentina hosting the 6th-ranked England. This is a depleted England squad, as 13 of their players are in Australia touring with the Lions. England are coming in with a hot streak after winning their final 4 games in the Six Nations this year. This is the first of 3 games these two teams will play against each other in 2025. England won both of the last 2 meetings, with those games taking part in Rugby World Cup 2023 in the pools, and then in the 3rd place playoff. Now, our other top 4 squad in the world rankings, Ireland. They are currently ranked 3rd. Ireland have 15 players in the Lions squad. They have a weaker team going around for the July international window. However, they are just playing 2 games, both in Europe against Tier 2 nations. The first of those games is against the 11th ranked Georgia this weekend. As I said, Ireland have all of those Lions out, and Georgia have a bit of momentum. They won the Rugby Europe Championship this year. They have won 6 games in a row. In 2024, Georgia beat Japan and Tonga. Ireland are 5-0 all-time against Georgia. Now, Australia's warm-up game before the Lions series. Australia are ranked 8th in the world, Fiji are ranked 9th, and they'll be taking part in a big old game in Newcastle this weekend. Reminder that in the 2023 Rugby World Cup, Fiji beat Australia and helped eliminate them in pool play. Australia did have a building but a disappointing 2024. This is Fiji's big game. They've got Scotland next week, and then they will be going into the Pacific Nations Championship. Let's see what happens. We are expecting a good Australian victory in this one, but also a lot of fight from that Fijian squad. Now let's get to Wales. Wales have lost 17 test matches in a row. They technically have 2 Lions. One of them is injured, so they've got 2 players unavailable for these games, and they are taking on the 13th ranked Japan, with Wales being ranked 12th. This one could be important World Cup wise. So Japan have only beaten Wales once, that in 2013. This is the first game of 2 being played in Japan. Now the Māori All Blacks will be taking on Scotland, who are ranked 7th in the world. This one's going to be in Whangarei. Scotland have 8 Lions, but they did win 2 out of 5 in the Six Nations. A bit disappointing for them. They'll be hoping for a good victory here before going to Fiji. And then Samoa. Now, in quite an intriguing game, Chile are taking on Romania. This is 21st in the world versus the 20th. Romania have qualified through that Rugby Europe Championship for the Rugby World Cup. Chile have their Sud-America competition kicking off in 2 weeks' time. That means they'll be playing Brazil twice, 2 legs. Winner of that plays the winner of Paraguay and Uruguay. So, if Chile win that, they will qualify. If not, they will then have to play a team from the Pacific Nations Cup, and then if they lose that, they will advance to the final qualification tournament. This is the start of a South America tour for Romania. Now, in another game this weekend, we have Belgium, who are ranked 22nd, their best ranking ever. Now, they came 5th in the Rugby European Championship this year, and they still have a chance to make that Rugby World Cup with that final qualification tournament. This weekend, they are touring and will be playing in the USA, who are currently ranked 15th. Both of these teams can still qualify for the World Cup. At the end of 2024, the USA beat Spain, Tonga and Portugal to finish with a nice ranking of 15th. That was after they came 4th in the Pacific Nations Cup last year. USA will be looking to establish a lot of momentum so they qualify for the World Cup through that PMC. In the final international this weekend, including a team that can qualify for the World Cup, we have the Brazilian squad, who are ranked 28th in the world, taking on an Argentina 15. In women's international rugby, it's such a good weekend for international rugby. We have South Africa hosting Canada. These are 2 teams that will be in the World Cup. This is 12th versus 2nd, the first of a 2-game series played in South Africa. We also have the Black Ferns of New Zealand taking on a New Zealand 15 before starting their Laurie O'Reilly Championship defence against Australia. This one's pretty much just a trial game. Who's going to look best and make their play to make that World Cup squad for New Zealand, the defending champions? All right, those are the games coming up this weekend. Those are the results from last weekend. It is a big international weekend for us. But let's talk about Big Mike's Big 3 games. If you've only got time to watch one, see one, follow one, whatever. Hey, how about maybe making sure it's one of these guys? I've actually gone for a quirky few games. We've obviously gone for the All Blacks versus France. These are 2 teams ranked in the top 4. This one's got a lot. The All Blacks have lost the last 3 games. France have sent a slightly weaker squad. There will be some debutants on both sides starting their campaign to make that World Cup in 2027. Another intriguing game from this weekend, we have Japan taking on Wales, 12 versus 13. Can Japan build some momentum for the Pacific Nations Cup? Can Wales finally stop their losing streak at 17? And finally, it is a game where the winner qualifies for the World Cup. We're obviously talking about Hong Kong versus Korea. All right. I have no idea how to watch it, but you sure as hell know that I'm going to post the result to that Instagram page as soon as I find out what happens in this one. And that's it for the roundup this week. Sorry if I sound a bit off. I still haven't recovered from having to retrieve my 16-foot trampoline from over the neighbour's fence, which was half over another neighbour's fence. Don't you just love living in Australia? I don't, but I have an Australian wife, so I've got no choice. Anyway, it's going to be a fantastic weekend, full of rugby this week. I hope you all enjoy it as much as I do, and I hope you have a beautiful week and watch some beautiful rugby.